Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to say, first of all, sorry for the delay. We've had some technical difficulties. This is a public hearing, bylaw 25B-2001, an amendment of zoning bylaw 25-B. I'd like to send it over to Xander Gopin.
Brunswick Southwest.
New Brunswick Southwest.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Xander, can you hear us?
Everybody can hear me. Someone's gonna have to let me share my screen, and then I can go into the presentation.
You have your speakers muted over there. Just 1 second, Xander. Just turning on audio on this side. Can you go ahead?
Yeah. Is it possible for me to share my screen?
Should be able to.
It says the host disabled participant screen sharing. I don't know if you're getting a message saying I'm trying to share my. Oh, there we go. Okay, now we're in. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see that and everyone can hear me.
Yep. Great.
So I came and talked to council about this back in December. This is for members of the public as well as council. And I think there was a little bit of confusion when I explained it to council. I don't think I did the best job, so I'm going to try and do a better job. And hopefully with some text on the screen, things will make a little bit more sense. So we're talking about the C1 downtown zone. And it does not currently allow for residential uses under 4 units. It allows for standalone apartment buildings over 4 units, but it doesn't allow for any residential use that's under 4 units at this time. So if you have a use like that, as there are several there, they're called legally non-conforming, and the kind of colloquial way of saying that is they're grandfathered. You probably all heard the term grandfathered. Legally non-conforming is the technical way to describe it, and that comes from the Community Planning Act, which is the provincial regulation that deals with planning. So I'll do a little hierarchy planning regulation. So when something's legally non-conforming or grandfathered, it doesn't mean it's illegal. That use can continue. So let's say you have a residential use in the C1 zone now. You don't have to send the bylaw enforcement officers in to make sure nobody's living there. It just means that a building or development permit can't be issued for that use. And it can even be if, let's say you're in the downtown zone right now, you've got a commercial use on your ground floor and a residential use on your second floor. You can still get your building and development permits for that commercial use. You just can't get them for the residential use. And that's what triggered this. A property in that zone, the owner applied for an exterior staircase to a second floor residential use. So we opened the zoning bylaw because that's where we go first, and realized, oh, that's not an allowed use. You're allowed to have a standalone apartment building of over 4 units, but that's not the case here. So according to the Community Planning Act, as I mentioned, we have a legally non-conforming use. So the Community Planning Act basically sits above your municipal plan bylaw. And that municipal plan bylaw sits above your zoning bylaw. So the zoning bylaw does things that your municipal plan tells it to do, and the municipal plan basically exists because the Community Planning Act, which is provincial regulation, says to make a municipal plan and a zoning bylaw. But you can't have things in the zoning bylaw that don't conform with the municipal plan. You can't have things in your municipal plan or zoning bylaw that don't conform with the Community Planning Act. Although you can kind of go above and beyond what the Community Planning Act says. So I'll come back to that, but this is the zoning map of the portion of St. George that we're really talking about. The red is the C1 downtown zone, Main Street. You know, it's your main commercial strip where most of the businesses are. And this is sort of what it looks like. And the reason I'm showing this picture is you can tell just from this picture, you have several buildings right here where you have some kind of commercial or office use on the first floor. And then above it, almost certainly you have apartment units. So any of these uses right now are legally non-conforming. The use can continue, but you can't get a building permit for, let's say there's an apartment there. You're not going to be able to get a building permit for that particular use on that property. So when we look at rezonings or text amendments at the zoning bylaw, we then look to the municipal plan because it sits above the zoning bylaw in that hierarchy. It has sort of more general policies that can help us make sense of what we should do with the zoning bylaw in cases like this. So there's a few policies that are really relevant for this. One of them is in that zone, you should be increasing residential opportunities. Another is there should be this zone, the downtown commercial zone, that offers all these different types of uses: government, office, small scale retail, entertainment, restaurants, pubs, a whole lot of things. And then you see higher density residential uses. So those are those standalone apartment buildings over 4 units and mixed use developments. And mixed use is almost always referring to a combination of residential and commercial. So finally, we get to this policy. It's actually a proposal, sorry, in the municipal plan. And it's very specific. Council is encouraging mixed use developments within this zone that have at least the ground floor of the building dedicated to a commercial, office, institutional, or retail use. So this is saying to me, and through me to you, you want to have mixed uses. You want to have residential uses in that downtown commercial zone. You just don't want them on the ground floor. So, if you wanted to allow residential uses on the ground floor, you can't just amend the zoning bylaw. You also have to amend the municipal plan, because the municipal plan, if you remember, says you have to have the ground floor dedicated to commercial. So you could change that municipal plan and allow residential uses throughout the building, but that requires 2 amendments of 2 bylaws. And we've actually started reviewing the municipal plan for St. George, mostly starting off with mapping, but this is a process that we're going to be carrying out through the year, working with council, with residents, with as much of the community as possible, to make sure the municipal plan, which is now 11 years old, is still serving the community well. And it's possible that this policy is too restrictive. It's maybe you should be able to have residential on the entire ground floor. Maybe it should only be allowed in non-fronting portions. Maybe it shouldn't be allowed at all. There's all these questions that we should look at, but they should be looked at in depth. And to allow residential uses on the second floor, all it takes is a zoning bylaw amendment. First and second reading were given of that in December. This will make most properties conforming or legal. There will be a few where you do have residential uses on the first floor, and if they were to apply for a building permit or development permit, we'd have to deal with that at that time. But this would take care of most of the properties. And kind of most importantly, and why I'm saying just do the zoning bylaw and not the municipal plan at this time, is it allows that development to proceed where the owner wanted to put the stairs up to the second floor residential use. That can go ahead. They can get their building permits as soon as this bylaw is given 3rd reading and registered. So this is the amendment. It's a very simple and straightforward amendment. It's in line with the municipal plan. And you're basically adding to that allowed secondary uses in the zoning bylaw, a residential use as a secondary use, provided that the residential use is not on the ground floor of the building. So that's really that's it for the amendment. And as we go through the year, we'll be thinking more about this, how to structure the downtown with mixed uses. Are there other types of uses? But those are bigger questions and really should be looked at more fully. And at this time, you really just want to make this amendment to allow that staircase to be built. That's kind of what we're dealing with tonight. But it has brought up some more issues that we'll definitely be looking further at. So that's it for my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions.
So,
Stop sharing.
Alex, the one that you talked about residential, I really like the idea of in the frontal just being commercial and then residential in the back. So we still have people that have residential in the back of their buildings. So this is not going to do, they're still not in compliance, right?
Yeah, that's correct. They still won't be in line. It would be my recommendation probably at that time of the municipal plan review to amend that policy so that you can have residential on the first floor as long as it's not fronting onto the main street.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any public comment?
I can tell you right now, everyone, all the attendees are journalists. So they might also be residents of St. George, I'm not sure.
Perfect. Okay, hearing no more questions.
So this just to let that staircase block.
Right.
So it is going to be looked at in the future.
Yeah.
Municipal plan.
Okay.
Any other questions?
We don't see any attendees with hands up or anything, so that's noted.
Yeah. That's
No other
okay.
questions from council?
Seeing no other questions, I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn.
Hello.
Motion made by Acting Mayor Harris,